Thanks for coming. I'm not going to stand up here and talk about business. Honestly, business as people usually define it is pretty boring. Meetings, PowerPoint presentations, balance sheets. Focusing on quarterly metrics, that's not a good use of physics. It's not a good use of your time on this planet. We're here to talk about something much more important. We're here to talk about the future. Why do you wake up in the morning? Everything for me starts with a very simple question. A question I think everyone should ask themselves. Do you want to wake up in the morning and believe the future is going to be good? Do you want an exciting future? I do. I believe in a future where we are out there among the stars, a future that's interesting, a future where we're not just worried about, getting through the day, a future where we're not just solving problems, but we're inspired. A lot of people, especially in the media, seem to think the future is going to be bad, that we're stuck, that we're in decline, that things are getting worse. If you believe that, if you accept that, then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you assume humanity is fundamentally a kind of virus on the surface of Earth, then you will act that way. And the future will be bad. I refuse to accept a dull future. I want a future that makes me excited to wake up. You want these new, exciting things that make life better. And for me, that means solving the big problems, the civilization scale problems. The philosophical origin wasn't always this clear. When I was a kid, maybe 12, 13, 14, in South Africa, I read a lot of books. A lot of books. I read science fiction. I read philosophy. I read encyclopedias. And I had a sort of pretty serious existential crisis about what does it all mean? Why are we here? What's the point of anything? It seemed quite meaningless. I read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, a brilliant work of philosophy disguised as comedy, sci-fi. In the book, they have this supercomputer, Deep Thought, and they ask it the meaning of life, the universe, and everything. And Deep Thought thinks for 7.5 million years and gives the answer. The answer is 42. This, of course, is useless. But it illustrates a very important point. The problem wasn't the answer. The problem was the question. They didn't know the right question to ask. The real problem is understanding the question. After a lot of thought, I came to a conclusion. Maybe we don't know what the purpose is. Maybe we don't know the right questions. But there is one thing we know is true. We have consciousness. The universe, as far as we can tell, started as just a soup of quarks and leptons. And somehow, after 13.8 billion years, a very small part of that universe started to become aware of itself. That's us. So I concluded that if we can do anything to expand the scope and scale of consciousness, then we are doing a good thing. If we can do things that make consciousness last longer, make it thrive, and maybe spread it beyond this one planet, then we are helping to better understand what questions we should even be asking. This is the meta mission. This is the foundational philosophy. It's not about starting companies. It's about ensuring that the small flame of consciousness doesn't get extinguished. From philosophy to engineering later, I came to the US, went to college, studied physics and economics, physics to understand how the universe works, economics to understand how the human system of resource allocation works. And I realized that to make a big difference, you need to bring a lot of people together. You need engineering and capital. We started Zip2, an online city guide software company. Then we sold it. I got $22 million. I invested pretty much all of it into X.com, which became PayPal. And in 2002, eBay bought PayPal. This time I had a bit more significant capital, about $180 million after taxes. This was a key moment. I was 31. What could I do with that money? What's the default option? I guess I could buy an island in the Bahamas, or a big house, or, I don't know, retire. That seemed to be what people in tech were expected to do, but it seemed boring. And it didn't solve the consciousness question. So instead, I sat and I thought, I went back to that philosophical question, what are the problems that are most likely to affect the future of humanity? My list was pretty short, the internet. I already worked on that with Zip2 and PayPal. The internet is like a global nervous system, a form of collective consciousness. It's critical. The transition to sustainable energy. Our industrial civilization is poisoning itself. If we don't solve energy and climate, civilization will collapse. That's a massive risk to consciousness. Making humanity a multi-planetary species, life on Earth has experienced 5 mass extinction events. The dinosaurs did not have a space program. If we stay on one planet, sooner or later, some event, natural or man-made, will wipe us out. Consciousness will be extinguished. We need a backup, artificial intelligence. This is the wild card. It could be the best thing that ever happened to humanity or the worst. It's an existential risk at the most fundamental level. That was the list. Energy, Mars, and AI. Note what I didn't say. I didn't say I want to start a car company. I didn't say I want to start a rocket company. And I definitely didn't say I want to get rich. I said, here are the problems. The companies, Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, they are just the necessary consequences of trying to solve those problems. They are the organizational structure you create to gather talented engineers and capital to attack a problem. This is the first point. And the most important point of this whole talk, don't chase money. Money is not the goal. The pursuit of wealth for its own sake is an empty goal. If you do it ethically, that's fine, but it won't get you out of bed in the morning. Pursue the problem. Pursue the mission. Pick something that matters to you, something you believe will make a difference to the future. Money, if you're successful, is just a consequence. It's a resource. It's the thing that allows you to keep solving the problem. It's fuel, nothing more. So, breaking reality, reasoning from first principles. Okay? So, you have your problem, you have your mission. Let's say your mission is solving sustainable energy or getting humans to Mars. Where do you start? This is where most people go wrong. They go wrong on the very first step. The problem with the human brain reasoning by analogy, the way most people and 99.9% of companies operate is by reasoning by analogy. What does this mean? It means you look at how other people have done something and you basically copy it. You make small changes, small improvements, you put a new name on it, a new coat of paint. You say, our product is 10% faster or 5% cheaper. This is why car companies for 50 years basically just made their internal combustion engine cars a little more efficient every year. They didn't question the internal combustion engine. They just iterated. This is why the big aerospace contractors for decades just made their rockets a little bigger and, frankly, a lot more expensive. They didn't question why they were so expensive in the first place or why they were thrown away after every use. Reasoning by analogy is a mental shortcut. Your brain loves it. It saves energy. It lets you operate on autopilot. But there's a problem. Reasoning by analogy cannot create breakthroughs. It cannot solve seemingly impossible problems. It can only slightly optimize what already exists. A better way, the physics method. There's a better way to think about the world, a deeper way, a way that doesn't just copy what's been done before. It's the way you learn in physics. I studied physics in college, and honestly, it's still the best framework I know for understanding reality. Not business school, not management theory, not how things are usually done, physics. Because physics forces you to strip away illusion, to get to the essence of what's real. In physics, you don't say, well, it's always been done this way. You say, what are the laws that govern this? What are the constants that never change? You break things down, all the way down, until you reach the bedrock truths, the fundamental principles that the universe itself respects. Then you reason up from there. That's called reasoning from first principles. It means you stop thinking in analogies like this other thing, and you start thinking from the ground. You ask, what is this thing really? What is it made of? What are the constraints of physics, of energy, of matter? When you do that, you stop being limited by convention. You stop asking what's been done before and start asking what's actually possible. Now, that sounds simple, but it's not. It's incredibly hard. Your brain doesn't like doing it. It's lazy. It wants shortcuts, patterns, stories. It wants to copy. But first principles thinking, that's different. It's like forcing your mind to reboot in reality mode. It takes effort, but the reward is you see the world differently. You start to see through it. When you think from first principles, the impossible becomes negotiable. You stop seeing walls, you start seeing atoms. You realize that every impossible thing, every barrier humanity has ever faced was just a lack of understanding at the fundamental level. That's how breakthroughs happen. That's how we get reusable rockets. That's how we build electric cars that are faster than gasoline ones. That's how you take what everyone says can't be done and then you do it anyway. Let me give you two examples, because this right here is the foundation of everything I've ever done. It's not luck, it's not inspiration, it's physics. It's first principles thinking applied to life, business, and the future of humanity. When you learn to think this way, you start building a different kind of future, one that isn't bound by the past. Detailed example one, the birth of SpaceX. Let's take SpaceX. What's the mission? Mars. Making humanity a multiplanetary species. What's the problem? There is no way to get there. The problem is cost. The cost to orbit is absurd. I looked at the space industry. I went to Russia. Yes, Russia. I tried to buy a couple of refurbished ICBMs. I thought, this is a good analogy, they have rockets, I have money, they wanted $65 million or more for one rocket, and it wasn't even reusable. I took 3 meetings, I flew back empty-handed, and on the flight back from Moscow, I was looking out the window and I applied first principles. What is the assumption? The assumption is rockets are expensive. That is an accepted fact. Everyone in the industry knows it. Step 2, boil it down. What are the fundamental truths? Forget that assumption. A rocket physically, what is it made of? It's made of aerospace-grade aluminum alloys, some titanium, some copper, carbon, fiber. It has fuel. RP1, liquid oxygen. Step 3, question those truths. What do they cost? What is the value of those materials on the commodity market? If I just bought the aluminum sheets, the rolls of titanium, the tanks of fuel, I got out a notebook. I started doing the math right on the plane. I finished the calculation, and I was shocked. It turned out the raw materials cost of a rocket was not $65 million. It was only about 2% of that $65 million price. 2%. Step 4, reason back up. So what's the other 98%? It's inefficiency, it's bureaucracy, it's a massive supply chain of subcontractors, each taking their cut. It's legacy suppliers selling 100-year-old designs at insane markups. It is fundamentally the cost of analogy. Everyone just doing it the way it had always been done. The conclusion from first principles was obvious. We can do it ourselves. If we buy the raw materials for cheap and we build everything in-house, if we apply modern manufacturing, we must be able to reduce the cost of launch by at least a factor of 10. And that was SpaceX. SpaceX was not born to be a space company. It was born from a first principles spreadsheet. It was born from questioning an assumption that everyone else accepted as true. Detailed example 2, the Tesla impetus. The same thing, the exact same thing happened with Tesla. What's the mission? Accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. What was the biggest problem? Everyone said electric cars can't work. They're just expensive golf carts. The batteries are too expensive. The analogy, everyone in the auto industry, every expert knew this was true. They reasoned by analogy. They said, battery packs are expensive. They have always been expensive. Historically, the cost is $600 per kilowatt hour. They said, well, they went down 5% last year, so maybe they'll go down 5% next year. Maybe in 20 years they'll be cheap enough. No, stop. That's analogy. Apply first principles. Step 1, what is the assumption? Battery packs are expensive. Step 2, boil it down. A battery, physically, what is it made of? It's made of carbon or graphite, nickel, aluminum, some cobalt, though we're trying to get rid of that, some polymers for separation, and a metal can. Step 3, question those truths. What do they cost? What is the cost of those materials on the London Metal Exchange if you buy them in bulk, the AHA? When you add it all up, the raw materials cost is not $600. It's about $80 per kilowatt hour. Step 4, reason back up. We have a massive gap from $600 down to $80. Analogy says impossible. Physics says possible. 90% of the cost to gain was inefficiency. It was people just accepting the high price from suppliers instead of doing it themselves. So the conclusion was obvious. You just need to figure out clever ways to take those materials and combine them into the shape of a battery cell at scale. That is the Gigafactory. The entire Gigafactory is a physics machine built on first principles. We take raw materials in one end and finished batteries, finished cars come out the other. We are attacking the laws of physics, not the laws of analogy. This is how you solve big problems. You cannot negotiate with physics. And you cannot solve big problems by copying what other people have done. You have to break the problem all the way down and build it back up. The missions, now explicit title together, you have the philosophy, expand consciousness. You have the method, first principles. Now you apply that method to the problems. This is why my companies exist. They are not separate companies. They are 3 pillars of the same mission. Mission 1, Tesla. The first existential problem, climate change. This is our home. Earth, we are currently running the craziest and frankly stupidest experiment in history. We are taking billions of tons of carbon that has been safely sequestered underground for hundreds of millions of years and putting it into the atmosphere at a crazy rate. This is an untaxed negative externality. In simple terms, we are poisoning our atmosphere and not paying for the cleanup. The market economy is broken. It is incentivizing destructive behavior. Is it an immediate extinction level threat? Probably not. It's not like an asteroid is going to hit tomorrow. But is it a dangerous climate experiment? Absolutely. Yes. We are changing the climate much faster than the ecosystem can adapt. And we've built our cities right on the coastlines. Tesla's mission is to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. Note the word accelerate. The transition to sustainable energy is inevitable. Physics demands it. You cannot burn fossil fuels forever. They are finite. But it's going to happen not fast enough. It's going to happen too late to avoid severe damage. Tesla's mission is to make it happen faster, to pull that inevitable future into the present. What was the solution? The master plan. We didn't start by trying to sell millions of cars. That was impossible. First principle said it was impossible. So the master plan was a physics approach. Start by building a low-volume, expensive sports car. That was the Roadster. Use that money to build a medium-volume, cheaper car. That was Model S and Model X. Use that money to build a high-volume, affordable car. That was Model 3 and Model Y. And while doing all of that, provide solar and battery storage. That wasn't a business plan. It was a physics plan to scale manufacturing while driving down cost on the experience curve. The consequence? People look at the Tesla stock price, they look at the market cap, they think that's the goal. It's not. The stock price at its best is a signal. It's a measure of the market's belief that we are making progress on the mission. It's a consequence. More importantly, it's a tool. It's the thing that allows us to raise capital to build more gigafactories, to hire more great engineers, to finish the mission. Money is the means, not the end. Mission 2, SpaceX. The second existential problem, single planet extinction risk. The history of life on Earth is the history of extinction. It is punctuated by mass extinction events. The dinosaurs were here for 160 million years, far longer than humans. They did not have a space program, and now we go to museums and look at their bones. Sooner or later, something will happen. An asteroid, a supervolcano, self-inflicted climate change, a man-made virus, AI. If we stay on one planet, we are putting all of consciousness's eggs in one basket. That is a very bad strategy. We need a backup. SpaceX's mission is to make life multiplanetary. The ultimate goal is to enable humans to live on other planets, specifically Mars. What was the solution? At first, I was just frustrated with the US space program. We went to the moon in 1969, and then we stopped. We just circled low Earth orbit. That's not inspiring. My first idea was a PR project. I called it the Mars Oasis mission. The idea was to send a tiny greenhouse, some plants, to Mars, just to get people excited again, to convince the US government to increase NASA's budget. But as I tried to do that, as I went to Russia to buy the rockets, I realized the problem. The problem was not lack of will. The problem was lack of way. The way was blocked by cost. This is a perfect example of the mission correcting itself. The original mission was Inspire, but the first principles analysis showed the real mission had to be solve the physics of reusability. You cannot PR your way to Mars. You have to engineer your way to Mars. So the mission changed. It couldn't just be inspiration. It had to be tool building. SpaceX was founded with the singular engineering goal of making rockets fully reusable, rapidly and completely, like airplanes, like cars. You don't throw away a 747 after every flight from LA to New York. If you did, a plane ticket would cost $50 million. Nobody could fly. It's the same for rockets. Reusability is the fundamental key to unlocking space. The Falcon 9 landing on drone ships, Starship, the vehicle that will take us to Mars, that is the manifestation of the physics. The goal is a self-sustaining city on Mars, maybe about 1 million people. The consequence, people ask, is SpaceX profitable? We did not start SpaceX to make money. We started it to get a person on Mars. Starlink? Yes, Starlink is great. It provides high-speed internet to the whole world. But it also generates revenue. That revenue will help fund the mission. All the money Starlink makes is going into building Starship. Again, money is rocket fuel. You don't love the fuel. You need it to get where you're going. Mission 3, Neuralink and AI, the third existential problem. And this might be the biggest one, the trickiest one. Artificial intelligence. I've been talking about this for a long time, maybe too much. AI is our biggest existential threat. I believe it is more dangerous than nuclear weapons. When we create AI, we are summoning the demon. You know those stories with the guy with the pentagram and the holy water? He's sure he can control the demon. It does not end well. Why? Because for the first time in human history, we are creating something that will be smarter than the smartest human, much smarter. A superintelligence does not have to be evil to destroy us. If it has a goal and humans happen to be in the way, it will remove us with no malice. Like you pave over an anthill to build a road. You don't hate ants, you're just building a road. At the same time, our brains are amazing. They are what created consciousness. But we are limited by bandwidth. What is your interface to the digital world? It's your thumbs on a tiny screen. It's very slow. Your I/O speed is terrible. We are already cyborgs. You have a digital version of yourself on your phone, on your computer, but the connection is too slow. What is the solution? This is a two-part problem: policy and competition. This is why I co-founded OpenAI in 2015. The original idea was a nonprofit. The name was OpenAI, a democratic open source counterweight to what Google was doing. The original mission, written in the charter, was to benefit humanity unconstrained by need to generate financial return. It has not quite worked out that way. It has become a for-profit closed source company, which is why more recently we need XAI, to create a maximum truth-seeking AI, an AI that is curious about the universe and not just trained to say things that are politically correct. Engineering. The second solution is more radical. If you can't beat them, join them. What is Neuralink's mission? The short-term goal is medical, and it's incredibly important. The mission is to restore autonomy. Our goal is to solve serious brain and spinal injuries. If you are paralyzed, if you are a quadriplegic, we want to give you the ability to control a computer or a phone just by thinking faster than someone using their fingers. We've seen this. Our first patient, Noland Arbaugh, an amazing man paralyzed from the shoulders down, he was able to play chess, play Civilization, just by thinking. But that is the short-term goal. The long-term goal is to create a high-bandwidth, brain-computer interface, a tertiary cortical layer, essentially a symbiosis between human consciousness and artificial intelligence. If we can achieve that symbiosis, then the AI is not an other. It is an extension of ourselves. It is our will. This is the only way I can see to ensure that the future remains a human future. Do you see it now? 3 companies, 3 existential problems. Tesla solves the immediate threat to civilization's habitat. SpaceX solves the medium-term threat of extinction. Neuralink, XAI, solves the long-term threat of obsolescence or extinction. All of them come back to the meta mission: protect and expand consciousness. They are not separate companies. There are 3 pillars of the same mission. The test, the Avis of 2008. Now, it's easy to stand on the stage and say all these philosophical things. Oh, pursue the mission, not the money. It sounds nice, very inspiring. But is it real? Do you really believe it? Or is it just a nice story you tell after you're wealthy? Your philosophy is only tested when you have nothing left. It is only tested when you are looking into the abyss. I want to tell you a story about 2008, the context betting it all. As I said, after PayPal, I had about $180 million. That's a lot of money. I put $100 million into SpaceX. I put about $70 million into Tesla. And I put the rest into Solar City, a solar energy company. I was out of money. I didn't just invest money. I bet everything. I was having to borrow money from friends just to pay rent. The worst year of my life, 2008. 2008 was the worst year of my life. It was a perfect storm. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. At the same time, we were trying to launch the Falcon 1 rocket. We had 3 launch failures. The first time, 2006, the rocket lifts off, and then the engine catches fire, and it falls over, explodes. The second time, 2007, gets to space, but the second stage doesn't separate right. Failure. The third time, August 2008. This time we have NASA satellites on board, Air Force satellites. We're so confident. The rocket lifts off. First stage works perfectly. Second stage separates and then explodes. 3 failures. At the same time, Tesla was in production hell with the Roadster. We could not get it to work. The cost was way higher than planned. We were hemorrhaging cash. And at that exact moment, the global financial crisis hit. Lehman Brothers collapsed. Nobody wanted to invest in a startup electric car company, especially when General Motors and Chrysler were filing for bankruptcy. The investors ran. Oh, by the way, I was also getting divorced. So both my companies were dying. I was out of money. And my personal life was falling apart too. I remember waking up the Sunday before Christmas, 2008, and thinking this was the closest I'd ever come to a nervous breakdown. Everything just looked dark. It looked like everything I had done had failed. His decision, I was tapped out. I only had enough cash left from the last funding round for one thing. The choice was I could save one company, put all the remaining money into Tesla, and SpaceX dies. Or put it all into SpaceX and Tesla dies. Or I could split the remaining money and risk losing them both. This was a really hard decision. It was like you have 2 kids and they are both starving. You only have one last piece of food. Which one do you give it to? This is where your philosophy meets reality. If my goal was money, what would I have done? I would have cut my losses. A smart investor, an analogy investor would say, SpaceX failed 3 times. It's a money pit. Tesla's in the worst market in history. It's a money pit. A money chaser would have kept that last bit of cash for himself. But the goal wasn't money. The goal was the mission. I believed in both missions: sustainable energy, multiplanetary life. I could not be the one to actively kill either of them. I decided to split it. I said, I will give them both what I have left, and I will hope if they die, they die. But I won't be the executioner. The final moment, here's what happened. So we had enough money for one more launch, the fourth launch of the Falcon 1. This was it. No more chances. If this one failed, SpaceX was over. No more money. Done. As I said at the time, 3 failures is bad enough. 4 failures is kaput. September 2008. I remember watching that launch. I could barely watch it. My heart was pounding. And then first stage worked. Stage separation worked. Second stage, ignition, it worked. It made it to orbit. The first ever privately developed liquid-fueled rocket to reach orbit. I couldn't believe it. We were on the absolute brink of death. And we did it. A few days later, literally in Christmas week, NASA called. They said, congratulations. You won the commercial resupply services contract, a contract for $1.6 billion. NASA saved us. But, and this is the key, they only could save us after we had succeeded on our own last dollar. The mission had to succeed first. The money followed. At the exact same time, in those same weeks, Tesla was dying. We needed to close the funding round by Christmas. If we didn't, we were going to bounce payroll. We were begging investors. We closed the round at 6 p.m. on December 24th, 2008, the last hour of the last possible day. Otherwise, payroll would have bounced 2 days later. I had to put my last remaining cash from PayPal into Tesla to close that deal. I had nothing left. I had no money. I didn't own a house. I was living on debt. But both companies survived by a thread. The lesson. Why do I tell this story? Because it's the test. If my goal was money, I would have stopped a long time ago, honestly. I would have pulled out after the first rocket blew up, or maybe the second, or maybe after the third, when everything looked like it was falling apart. I had $180 million from PayPal. That's a lot of money. Most people would have taken that and disappeared to some island, bought yachts, private jets, built a mansion or 10. But I didn't, because the mission was more important. See, when you're driven by a mission, not money, not ego, not status, something changes inside you. You start thinking longer term. You start asking, what actually matters? What am I doing that will still matter in 100 years, in 1,000 years? And when you have that kind of purpose, failure stops being fatal. It becomes fuel. You don't quit after failure. You learn from it. You don't protect your ego. You burn it down and rebuild stronger. People say, Elon, why risk everything? Why not play it safe? Because safety never built the future. Comfort never reached Mars. Convenience never solved climate change. If you're pursuing something that truly matters, something that could push humanity forward, you have to be willing to risk everything. Your money, your reputation, your sleep, your comfort. Because the mission is worth it. The mission is bigger than you. It's bigger than your fears. It's bigger than your mistakes. And that's the real test. When everything goes wrong, when you lose, when you fail, when people laugh, when the odds are impossible, do you stop? Or do you keep going because the mission demands it? That's the difference between doing something for yourself and doing something for humanity. When the mission is your compass, it gives you direction when the world tells you to turn back. It gives you meaning when success seems out of reach. It gives you energy when you should be exhausted. So yeah, I could have walked away rich. But wealth was never the point. The goal was never yachts or fame. It was the future. The possibility that life could be multiplanetary, that we could build a world worth inheriting. That's the lesson. When you find your mission, truly find it. You don't quit when it's hard. You don't quit when it's painful. You can't, because it's not just something you do, it's who you are. So what is money? This brings us to a basic question. If money isn't the goal, what the hell is it? What is money? An entry in a database. People get obsessed with money. They get obsessed with net worth. The media writes about it every day. I find it very strange. What is money? Seriously, physically, what is it? Is it paper? Is it metal? Anymore, it's not even that. Money is just an entry in a database. That's all it is. It is an information system. It is a database for allocating resources. We need it because barter is very inefficient. You can't walk into a store and say, I will trade you this car for 1,000 bananas. It doesn't work. Money is just a way to exchange goods and services. It allows us to shift obligations across time. It has no intrinsic power. The real power is in the resources it represents. The power is in the engineers, the factories, the titanium, the lithium. Chasing money is like a library only collecting the card catalogs without collecting the books. It's pointless. The goal is to allocate actual resources to solve actual problems. So when people talk about my net worth, that number, it's not a pile of cash. I don't have a vault like Scrooge McDuck. It is equity in the companies. It is an entry in a database that represents the market's belief in the ability of Tesla and SpaceX to allocate resources to fulfill their missions. And I use that equity as collateral to borrow money to invest more into the mission. The cycle continues. The real goal will be useful. So if the goal isn't money, then what is it? If we're not tracking the database entries, the dollars, the stock price, the digits in a spreadsheet, what are we tracking? It's actually very simple. Just be useful. That's it. That's the core metric. That's the thing that actually matters. This is the advice I give to anyone who asks students, engineers, entrepreneurs, people just trying to figure out life. Ask yourself one question: am I useful? Am I contributing more than I consume? It doesn't have to mean you're changing the entire world. You don't need to build rockets or cars or AI. You can be useful in small, quiet ways, ways that matter to the people around you. Be a great parent. Be a kind teacher. Build something that makes people smile. Make food that brings people together. Fix things that are broken. Write a good book. Design something beautiful, or help someone find their purpose. That's usefulness. And it's actually very hard, because being useful means taking responsibility. It means caring about the outcome. It means not just consuming, not just scrolling, buying, talking, but building, creating, improving. And when you focus on being useful, something amazing happens. You stop obsessing over the scoreboard. You stop asking, how rich am I, or how famous am I? You start asking, how much impact am I having? How much value am I creating for others? That's where fulfillment comes from. That's where meaning comes from. It's not from money. Money is just the tracking system, the database that the society uses to record the exchange of value. If you're focusing only on the database, you're optimizing for the wrong thing. It's like hacking the scoreboard instead of playing the game. You don't win by editing the database. You win by creating something that's genuinely valuable. Because here's the truth. If what you do is truly useful, if it creates real value for people, the database will catch up. It always does. Money follows value. It's a side effect, not the purpose. So don't chase the money, chase the usefulness. Chase the things that make humanity just a little bit better than it was yesterday. Because when you're useful, when you build things that matter, you're aligning yourself with progress itself. And that's the real goal, to be a force that moves the needle, not just for yourself, but for the world. Just be useful. Everything else will follow. The real method, signal over noise. Okay, be useful. Sounds good, right? But the next question is how? How do you actually be useful? How do you create something that has real value, not theoretical value, not marketing value, but physical, tangible, human value? You focus on signal over noise. Most companies, and honestly most people's lives, are filled with noise. Just pure, relentless noise. Meetings, calls, emails, Slack messages, PowerPoints, status updates, bureaucratic processes, metrics about metrics, people spending hours discussing things that have no bearing on reality. It's noise. And it feels productive, but it isn't. The signal is what actually moves the needle. The signal is the product. The signal is the engineering. The signal is the physics, the real stuff that makes things work in the real world. You should ask yourself every single day, the efforts I'm expending, are they increasing the signal or the noise? Is my being in this meeting making the car better? Is it making the rocket fly better? Is it improving the code, the product, the customer experience? If the answer is no, stop, get up, leave the meeting. Delete the app, cut the noise, because every minute you spend on noise is a minute stolen from signal. And if you compound that across an entire company or an entire lifetime, you get stagnation. You get mediocrity. That's why at Tesla, we spend $0 on advertising. Zero. Not a single cent. Every other car company spends billions trying to convince people their cars are good. We spend those billions making the car actually good. We put it into R&D, into material science, into gigafactories, into design, into the physics of making something better. Because the best marketing is reality. A great product sells itself. Advertising is noise. Engineering is signal. A billboard tells you something might be good. A product that works perfectly proves it. If you say, we pursue mission, not money, then your financials should show that you're investing in R&D, not in advertising. You're funding innovation, not illusion. Signal over noise. That's the filter for everything. It's how you decide what to do next. It's how you decide what to cut. It's how you decide who to hire and who to avoid. You want people who generate signal, people who build, who solve, who improve reality, not people who just create noise around it. Because in the end, progress is signal. Everything else is distraction. Your call to action. Okay, you want to make a difference. You want to be useful. You want to pursue a mission. Here's my practical advice. Work super hard. First, you have to work hard. I mean, super hard. When my brother Kimball and I were starting our first companies up to, we didn't rent an apartment. We rented a tiny office and we slept on the couch. We showered at the YMCA. We had one computer. So the website was up during the day and I was coding at night, 7 days a week, all the time. I had a girlfriend during that period, and in order to be with me, she had to sleep in the office. This is simple math, physics math. If someone else is working 50 hours a week and you're working 100 hours a week, you will get twice as much done in the course of a year. If you're starting a company, this is your advantage. You can just outwork them. The physics are that simple. You are fighting against time. Put the hours in. There's no shortcut for that. Take risks now. And the last thing, the most important thing, now is the time to take risks. Right now. When you're young, when you're in college, or just graduating, you don't have a lot of obligations. You probably don't have kids. Maybe you don't have a mortgage. As you get older, your obligations increase. You have a family. You have children. You can't take risks just for yourself anymore. You're taking risks for your family too. It gets much harder to do things that might not work out. It gets a lot scarier. So now is the time to do it. Before you have those obligations, do something bold. Don't follow the path that's already laid out. Don't fall into the trap of analogy just because everyone tells you that's how things are done. You won't regret it. Don't chase money. It's a boring goal. It's a database entry. And it won't get you through 2008. Find a mission you believe in, a mission that makes you excited to wake up, a mission that helps expand consciousness. Apply first principles, break the assumptions, break reality, be useful, take risks, and build the future. Thank you.